Feed dogs Wagyu beef and hamburger and try to explain the difference to them.
What's up? How's it going? This is interesting. I've been talking about the 1959, the 1960, the Golden Era Les Pauls that I think, well, they're good guitars, but not the best guitars ever made, not the best guitars in the world. And I saw this thing where Bill Maher was talking about a commercial that was on during the Super Bowl. And he used a very interesting phrase. I thought it was interesting. He called it a zombie lie. A zombie lie. Check this out. Very interesting when you put this in the 59 Les Paul realm. A zombie lie. It means something that used to be true and it stopped being true, but people kept saying it. So a zombie lie is something that was at one time true, is no longer true, but people keep saying it like it is true. That's why it's a zombie lie, because it just hangs around. It never dies. The lie never dies because at one point it was true and people keep saying it like it's true. And if you think about the 59 Les Paul, man, this is the case. This is exactly it. This is a zombie lie that this is the greatest guitar ever made. It's a zombie lie. Right here. In 1965, Eric Clapton plugged this 59 Les Paul, right, into a Marshall. A Marshall had never been made. Nobody had one. It hadn't been invented. It wasn't even built. So nobody could have plugged a 59 Les Paul into a Marshall previous to Jim Marshall making the amp. So in 65, Clapton's in a studio, right, working on a record, John Mayall Bluesbreakers record. It's called the Beano record. And he plugs a 59 into a Marshall Bluesbreaker combo amp and cranks it to 10. Now, you know, at that time, this could have been the best sounding guitar in the world. It really could have been. Nobody's ever done it before. The Marshall hadn't been invented. Nobody ever took an old vintage, you know, quote unquote vintage. See, now that's also interesting because the guitar was only what, 5-6 years old. So was it vintage? Was he playing a vintage guitar? No, he wasn't. But still, he was playing a 59 into a Bluesbreaker amp, right? Something never been done. So when he cranked that amp up, you could have heard a sound you'd never heard before, And you could have went, wow, that's the best guitar sound ever made. And it could have been true. It could have been 100% true. I'm not saying it was, but it could have been true. That was the best sounding guitar ever. That could have been true. Now in 1967, it still could have been true. In 68, it could have been true. In the early 70s, you could have said, well, this 59 sounds real good cranked up to a Marshall. And they had only been reissuing the guitars for 4 or 5 years. Maybe it was still one of the best. Maybe it was. But now when you get into the 80s, the 90s, it's no longer true. The idea, the lie that the 59 Les Paul is the greatest sounding guitar ever would no longer be true, because there were so many Les Pauls that had been built that it would literally be impossible for that Les Paul to sound eons better than any other one. At that point, you could have found multiple Les Pauls that sounded as good or better than a 59. And at that point, the 59 is going down. It's no longer 6 years old. It's no longer 7 years old. It's no longer 10 years old. Now it's 40 years old. It's 50 years old. So the zombie lie is these old guitars sound so great. And I often, people get in the comments and they're like, well, nobody's saying it's the greatest sounding guitar ever. Nobody's saying it's the best guitar ever. Nobody's saying that. Yeah, they are, dude. This video, and I'm going to go through this, by the way, because this dude is just... the holy grail of guitars. Why is it the holy grail of guitars? If it wasn't the greatest guitar ever made, if it wasn't being pushed as being the most fantastic guitar ever produced, why would it be a holy grail? Exactly. Now, the zombie lie, right, that these guitars are the greatest ever and it's the greatest thing ever. This is Paul Stanley's kid. It's kind of small here. You might not be able to see it, but this is Paul Stanley's kid. Listen to what he says. Real interesting.
I remember going to Sam Ash on Sunset, and
so he goes to a guitar store, Sam Ash on Sunset.
They had a 60s SG special with soap bars, and I plugged it in. I remember being like, this kind of sucks. What?
Wait, what? He plugged in a Les SG from the 60s, a vintage guitar, and goes, well, you know what? This kind of sucks.
Being like, this kind of sucks.
But why would he be so shocked? Listen.
And I plugged it in. I remember being like, this kind of sucks. What? Like, you think all vintage guitars it's the holy grail. Yeah.
Why does he think that? See, why does he think that all vintage guitars are the holy grail? And this is Paul Stanley's kid, man. This is not a guy that's just, think about just your normal human being walking around that never hears anything except, 1959 went for $350,000. Wow, must be great. This is a kid, grew up around guitars, grew up around rock and roll, grew up around somebody who knew about guitars. It's Paul Stanley's kid. And he's sitting here thinking, well, all vintage guitars are the greatest things ever. These are the greatest guitars ever. And they're not. And the 59 is not the greatest guitar ever made, which gets me to this guy. He's, the first thing, man, that really upsets me about this type of human being is they're making themselves out to be a channel called Make Something, Say Something. Like, I'm just a dude with a channel. And I just get the impression the guy is being bankrolled by Chicago Music Exchange. So instead of Chicago Music Exchange, having an ad or something, they tell this guy, look, we'll give you X amount of money, start this YouTube channel. And then when it grows and it grows and it grows, a year from now, you may not ever know that this guy was bankrolled by CME, Chicago Music Exchange. You may not know that. And you may watch this and he's putting on a pedal and he's putting on a display. You go, wow, I'd like to buy that pedal. Not because the guy's really using the pedal, not because he's sincere, not because he's telling you the truth, not because he's being honest, because he's a shill. He's being set up as a shill. And Chicago Music Exchange and these guys never have to say that's what he is because they just give him the money to start the channel. He starts the channel and goes, well, this is my channel. This is my channel. It's called Make Something, Say Something. And he's completely being bankrolled. He's completely owned. He's a shill, total shill. But anyway, listen to what he says in this. He's trying to hawk their $355,000 guitar.
Made in the history of guitar making.
One of the most iconic guitars in the history of guitar making.
Les Paul Burst. This is one of the most iconic guitars ever made in the history of guitar making.
Well, you have two basic guitar shapes, a Stratocaster and a Les Paul. So yeah, there's two of them. So yeah, it's one of them. Now, is it the most iconic? See, this is what Tom Bukovac says. This is the most iconic guitar of all time. No, it's not. No, it's not, guys. Sorry. Hate to break this to you, Tom. The Les Paul is not the most iconic guitar of all time. The most iconic guitar of all time is the Fender Stratocaster. Period. Done. Finished. In every respect, it's the most iconic guitar of all time. Okay. So yeah, the Gibson Les Paul is number 2, but there's only 2 real main players there. So he's basically in last place.
Iconic means the best. Baby Puke is the best.
Now this guy who's shilling these guitars, man, you just cannot believe this. Listen to this.
They are all hand wound, no one set.
He's talking about the pickups, and he says they're hand wound.
AFs or patent applied for pickups. They are all hand wound.
You're hawking a 300. See, these are the lies. This is the bullshit that goes with these guitars. Oh, now the pickups are hand wound. Now the pickups, when you're paying $355,000, you don't want to hear that a machine wound your pickups. You want to hear a dude was sitting there winding pickups. No pickup is hand wound. I hate it when I hear it's hand wound. It's not hand wound, because when you say hand wound, you make it seem like you're doing this. You're not doing this. Hand winding is feeding a machine like this, wire. That's it. That's what you're doing. And they call this hand wound. The machine's turning over here. And you're just feeding it in with your hand. That's hand wound. That's what they call hand wound. It's a misnomer. It's not true. There's no pickup that's hand wound. And these pickups in this guitar are certainly not hand wound.
Pickups are on a 59 guitar. The pickups make Baby Puke sound good.
Let's see here. Oh, this is where you get to the good stuff. This is where you get to the good stuff. Here we go.
That's a certain magic.
The pickup has a certain magic.
It's going to be exactly the same as the other set, but most all of them possess a certain magic.
Most all of them possess a certain magic. Oh, how much is this magic going to cost me? $355,000 plus tax. Oh, okay. I guess they are magic then. Yeah. No pickup is magic, guys. No pick. There's not one pickup on this planet that's magic. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of somebody going to some, what do you call it? Secluded island with a lighter, a big lighter, and, showing up there and going, hey guys, look, magic. Look, guys, magic. It ain't magic. There's no magic in a lighter. A lighter is not magic. Okay? And a guitar pickup is not magic. It's not even close to magic. It's actually traceable down to exactly how it's working to the nth degree so we can reproduce it right now at infinitum. It's exactly the opposite of magic.
Vintage guitars are magic. I sell vintage guitars, that's why.
Okay, here we go. 245, he's going to talk about the sound of it.
There aren't very many of them, and because very few things on planet Earth sound as great as them.
See, now, I always say, well, people say these guitars are the best sounding guitars, and I'm saying that, and people, no, who says that? Who's nobody says that? Yeah, they do. They've been saying this is the zombie lie. See, this is the zombie lie from 1965 when Eric Clapton plugged his guitar into a Marshall, and it was or could have been the best sounding guitar ever. It's still going today. Very few things on planet Earth sound as great as them. So think about it. He's not even limiting it to guitars. Take cellos, violins, timpani drums, flutes, a clarinet, saxophone. Take a synthesizer, take a keyboard, take a piano, take a whirly, take a Fender Rose, take all that. This sounds better. So this guy's even taking it further than just, well, it's the best sounding guitar. He's saying it's one of the best sounding things on planet Earth. How much does one of the best sounding things on planet Earth cost me? $355,000 plus tax.
We live on planet Earth, and we all have sound. That's why Baby Puke is the best sound on Earth.
Let's see here. Three. This is another one where he gets into this vague idea of what this guitar sounds like.
The Thing, and did the thing in spades. They own this guitar. This one did the thing, and did the thing in spades.
This guitar did the thing, and it did the thing in spades. Well, what exactly is the thing? What exactly did it do? It made a sound. It vibrated. The strings vibrated, and it went through a magnetically based pickup into a cord, into an amplifier. Hold on. It did the thing, huh? How much is this thing going to cost me? How much is this thing that does the thing that the thing does? How much is that going to cost me? $355,000 plus tax.
Baby Puke does the thing. The thing that the thing does is the thing.
Okay. So then later on here we get to, I'm not going to dwell on this too long, man. It's a bunch of garbage. Total shill.
Where the magic happens. And in this case,
see, once again, he used the words magic when he talks about the pickups and the pickup harness and
action to be all original, because this is where the magic happens. And in this case,
and it's interesting he's saying that, you know, this is where the magic happens in the pickups and the electronics, but a lot of people are saying, well, it's the old growth wood, man. It's that Brazilian rosewood fretboard and that old growth wood, man. So, you know, it shifts. These people who are saying this is the greatest guitar of all time, they always shift the goalpost. And you know what's interesting? This guy, ST Pickups, man, who makes a dead on copy of a PAF. I mean, he has sound examples up where you couldn't tell them apart. I don't care who you are. You couldn't tell them apart. I mean, they are dead on. He's talking about the pickup harness, and look what he says. He says, oh, by the way, the wire in a lot of these 59s is rotted. It's rotted out. See, this is not rotted. It's real tight. And this one's rotted. It's loose. and he says this black inside the braiding, there's this black cloth that rots out. Look at how it's become loose and it's rotted. So this guy's like, oh, well, you want all this stuff here. All this stuff is magic here in the middle of the guitar. Well, what do you have there, buddy? What's in the middle of the guitar there? Well, you got that. First of all, your tone pots, they got moisture in them and they don't work right. So it lets more treble in, and that's good. Okay, what else? Well, you know, the volume pots, they don't work either correctly. So instead of 500, they're reading 600K, and that's actually better. Okay, what else? Well, the wire that connects the pickups, well, they're rotted out. So that, you know, that really adds to the magic. Okay, so what else do I need there to be original? Well, you need the pickups to be original too, because the magnets, you know, they lose, you know, over time. They're old and they get rusty, and in the inside of it doesn't work correctly, and these pickups could die. But the closer they come to dying, the better they sound. Oh, okay. So I want my tone pots malfunctioning. I want my volume pot malfunctioning. I want my wire rotted, and I want my pickups to not be working correctly. And this is how I get a good sound. This is how I get the best sound in the world. This is how I get the greatest guitar sound of all time. That's how I do it. And how much is this going to cost me? $355,000 plus tax.
Rotted wire, that tone pots, crack wood. That volume pot, collapse bridge, they do sound good. If you want the pretty sounding guitar box from me, it will only cost you $350. How does it malfunction? Age, crack, break, wear out, and still sound the best. Magic. Magic, good magic.
Brazilian rosewood makes you gay.
All right, guys. That's it. I'll see you next time.